Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is John Tkaczewski. I'm the president and co-founder of FileCatalyst, and today's webinar will be talking about how FileCatalyst can help accelerating moving files on your LAN or local area network. This webinar is going to be also simultaneously tweeted, and if you're interested in our webinars, you can always sign up for our hashtag FileCatalyst webinar, or you can follow this webinar on Twitter as well. So here's what we're going to be talking first. Before we get into the whole meat of how FileCatalyst can help on local area network, I just want to first go back to the basics and explain quickly how FileCatalyst really accelerates moving files, because that's really directly related to the question, how can we help on transferring on files on local area network. I will also show you a bandwidth calculator. It's a tool that we have on our website that you can really calculate and see the dip performance improvement versus the TCP file transfer. And then I'll show you a quick demo of our FileCatalyst Direct server and hot folder, just to kind of give you an idea how everything works. So just to give you an idea what we do. So we specialize in enterprise file transfer. So if you have a business and you need to move large amount of data, either media files, backups, anything that requires very, very large amount of disk space, we specialize in creating solutions around that. Our second thing, what we do also, we specialize in helping you moving this data far. So if you want to move this data from Europe to North America, we can help you with that. We have a patent pending unique protocol that we've built that is based on UDP. I'll get into that in a minute. We always try to, our solutions are very simple to use for end users, and we're trying to treat, business users just like home users. So a lot of there's a lot of services out there that are really meant for consumers, for sharing files, and we try to build our tools as much as possible, as closely as possible to those type of solutions. So it's easy for end users to use our products. And then we provide you all the monitoring, management tools, security that a business will require to move big data. And finally, we help you with the cloud. And if you want to move data to the cloud, either Amazon, OpenStack, Windows Azure, our software can help you with that. Actually, next month's webinar will be talking strictly about the cloud. So if you're interested in moving data to your cloud provider, we can help you. It will be a very good webinar to get you started. So let's go back to the basics now. What is TCP? Well, TCP has been around for a really long time. Without TCP, you wouldn't be able to do anything on the internet today. You wouldn't be able to browse the web. You wouldn't be able to FTP or send files. You wouldn't be able to send an email. Everything relies on TCP on the network. So TCP is just very good because it provides reliability on your network connections. It provides you error checking, and also provides you a congestion control, meaning that multiple users can use the network at the same time. But TCP, unfortunately, was not designed for moving big amount of data. So what happens with TCP is that TCP is not going to be able to move big files very quickly because there's the acknowledgments. And this is where our protocol, our UDP protocol, comes in. So our UDP protocol takes the files and moves it, much more efficiently on the network without using TCP. So we just use the UDP as the underlying protocol to move the data, but we control how fast the data flows, what gets retransmitted. All of this is built into the application layer. So you can see here that the biggest thing, the protocol, is that it doesn't degrade with latency. So as the latency on your network increases, TCP slows down very quickly. With our protocol, this doesn't happen. So you can send files as fast as possible, regardless of your geographic location. And finally, we're also the protocol has been also built around to leverage multi-core architecture. And this is important if you want to send files very fast at, let's say, 1 gigabit or 10 gigabits, which actually this webinar is going to be talking about how to send files on local area network, and I'll be showing you how fast local area network connectivity also suffers from latency because of the fast speed. So with TCP, here's sort of how the data flows. The data is sent basically little by little. So I take a little chunk of data, I'll send it with TCP, I'll wait for an acknowledgement from the receiver, and once I get my acknowledgement, I'll repeat the process. If I'm sending data that is, if I'm sending data and the acknowledgement never arrives from the receiver, then I'm going to take the chunk of data I'm sending and I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to send only half of the data until I get a confirmation from the receiver that they got it. So as you can see, because it's very chatty, we're doing a lot of talking, not a lot of sending. TCP becomes very slow on the network where there's latency. And with local area network, once again, there's not much latency, but once again, because this is a linear process where data just flows one bit at a time, it also slows down. So with FileCatalyst, what we do, we take the data and we send multiple chunks of data at the same time, but we're using UDP rather than TCP to send that, so we can control everything about the transfer. We're not affected by we're not affected by the latency and packet loss because much more data is going at the same time. We can control the bandwidth. We can control the aggression or how fast you want our protocol to be, and we can maximize the link, your file transfer, your file transfer connectivity connection with the transfer. So out of the box, the protocol is fairly the protocol is smart, so it's going to share the bandwidth. So our goal is when you're sending files with FileCatalyst, we want all the other TCP applications to be slower, but we want them all to work, and that's our goal by default. Of course, you can disable these you can of course disable these checks and send at full line speed if you wish to. But in most cases, our users will use it that it's something that we can share. You can share the data with other TCP connections. So here's an example of bandwidth improvement that you can get with FileCatalyst over WAN or wide area network. So here's an example: LA to New York, 1 gigabit connection. You want to send the file, 10 gig file. It will take almost 6 hours with FTP, and with FileCatalyst take 1:24. Here's an example that is a little further apart: LA to Rio. You have a file transfer that takes the same 10 gig file with FTP's 15, almost 16 hours, and we're still 1:24. So as you can see here, what's happening is that it doesn't matter what scenario you're going to throw, you're going to ask me here. It's always going to be, minute 24, minute 24, minute 24. Technically, theoretically, if RTT or the latency the latency on the network was B0, FTP and FileCatalyst will be probably sending data at a very similar rate, which would be probably close to minute 4. So what is latency, and why is this average latency in the world? So this is sort of averages. I mean, you can do a ping test yourself to see what the latency you have, where you're going, from which office to office, or where you are. But this sort of gives you a guideline. So if you're doing LAN or local area network transfers, you're looking at a latency 0 to 10 milliseconds. Within a city, it's up to 60 milliseconds. Within your country, you're looking at 90. If you're going now international transfers, so like Europe to North America, you'll be looking in a range of 130. Going to Asia from North America will be 250, and 250 plus will be, you'll be either on two things. You'll be either going, Europe to Australia, or Europe to, or North America to Australia, or you'll be going on a satellite. Because satellite connectivity usually have latency starting around 500 to 600 milliseconds. So that causes quite a bit of a slowdown on TCP. So today I want to really concentrate on this 0 to a 10 millisecond latency speed. So what we have on our website, we have a tool, a bandwidth calculator tool that will allow you to gauge the speed of that you're going to be getting and compare it to FTP. By FTP, really here I mean anything that is TCP based, any TCP based protocol. So let's start slow here. Let's start at 10 megabits. And since we're concentrating on that LAN, I'm just going to put this to 20 milliseconds here. So this is my parameter here. What's my bandwidth and my average latency? So as you can see, if I have a 10 megabit connection and I have a latency of anywhere up to 20 milliseconds, as you can see, FTP or TCP is very good. There's no problems with it. You can maximize your bandwidth just fine with a 10 megabit connection with such a slow latency. And this is a very commonly people think that when you have local area connections, you don't need acceleration. And it's true if your connectivity is slow. But now when we start going to local area network, well, 10 megabits is definitely too low. We'll have at least 100 megabits. And with 100 megabits, so this will be connectivity on campus. This is even fairly slow, but let's assume we'll start with that. If you have 100 megabit connectivity on your LAN, well, you can see that if you have anything up to, I would say, 5 milliseconds latency, you're already seeing a degradation in speed on FTP. So FTP is starting to slow down. FileCatalyst, as you can see, just goes steady. It doesn't matter what speed it is, you're always going to get the same performance. So as you can see, with 5 milliseconds, your performance starts degrading with FTP. Now, if you go into 10 milliseconds, now you're almost FileCatalyst is almost 5 times faster right now because your 100 megabit connection you can only get about 20. So let's increase this now to a gigabit, which is probably more of an average deployment of LAN today. If you take LAN on a gigabit connection, you can see that even with latency of 2-3 milliseconds, your performance with FTP is dropping quite a bit. It's almost dropping tenfold. So in your LAN, if you currently have a LAN of a gigabit and you're trying to transfer files between, let's say, 2 offices or two buildings in your campus, you'll be seeing that you'll be hitting probably somewhere in a range of maybe 80 to 100 megabits on the gigabit LAN to transfer these files. With FileCatalyst, once again, it doesn't matter what happens. So it doesn't matter what happens to your latency, FileCatalyst will be able to go at full speed. Now, if I go now to 10 gigabits, which is starting to be very common as well with our clients, here is the interesting part. So if I go again into that 2-3 milliseconds range, well, I'm only able to do about 100 megabits or less than that with FTP. Once again, with FileCatalyst, you can get a full line speed. So what does this mean? That you can transfer basically 10 times faster on your LAN than with existing tools like FTP or Windows file sharing like CIFS or SFTP, whatever you're using on your campus right now to move data between your shares. You could be going much faster. So, by the way, if you have any questions during this presentation, please ask them in the GoToWebinar box so I can get to them at the end of my presentation. So that's the idea of the, this is sort of gives you an idea where, how FileCatalyst will perform on local area network and very fast links. So local area network doesn't have a lot of latency, but usually has a very, very high bandwidth, and you need one of these parameters, either high latency or high bandwidth, to see an improvement with FileCatalyst. And in this case here, we have a lot of bandwidth, not a lot of latency, therefore we can accelerate the transfer, 5 to 10 times, even on LAN. So the next step here I wanted to just show you is a quick demo of our products, so you'll have an idea what you're, how to work with. So we have a number of client options. So it's a client-server architecture. We have a number of client options. I'm just going to concentrate on the server today and our hot folder client, which is sort of the one of the main ones that our clients use. So this is the main interface for FileCatalyst Server. This is where you create your users and you would map them to some network share or network storage. Now in this example here, everything is on local, so I have C://, but if I was connecting onto network drives, I could have UNC paths here, so // server name, and I could connect users that way. So these users, each of these users has permissions, so they can either upload, download, you can set permissions, and you can also create groups for these users, and you can create something called a virtual folder. So imagine that all these users here have their own private directory where they can upload files, but you can create a virtual folder that, let's say, 2 users or a group of users can share. And like this, you can make resources or on your storage available to multiple users without changing the root path. So everything remains secure. Another thing you can do here is FileCatalyst Server can also work as a regular FTP server, as an FTPS server, and as an SFTP server. So you can define here what you want the file server to be. Besides these 3, FileCatalyst also can run FileCatalyst clients, which is the 4th, I guess, service that it can provide. If you're interested in LAN transfers, one thing we have here, we have a switch, unlimited bandwidth for FTP LAN transfers. This only applies to FTP transfers on the LAN, but is sometimes it's useful, especially if you want to move something just with regular FTP protocol, but you can enable that. Then you have your monitoring here. This is where you can see all your sessions, who's transferring files, slow them down, kill them, speed them up. All of this can be done over on the server side. And so that's for the server side. And if I'm going to show you here the hot folder has, that's the client side. So this is where you would install. So the hot folder is really an automated tool that monitors folders, and as soon as some content is dropped into a folder, it can either upload it or download it automatically. So first of all, you need a site. So this is going to be your site you're connecting, your FileCatalyst server you're connecting to. You need to define yourself a folder. So here I created a folder on my desktop called Uploads, and now I have to create a schedule. Schedule, it will be the setup, what I want to do with this transfer. So if I open it up here, I can give this task a name. I can either do an upload or a download. Select which site I'm going to. Create a schedule. I can create a schedule to be every minute, or I can go every second. You can create a different type of schedules. If we're monitoring a very large file system, we also can enable file system events. So instead of scanning the directory, we'll just be looking on file system events. If something changes, we'll automatically upload it. Connection side, you have your protocol, so you can do UDP. This is where I mentioned the tuning of the protocol, where you can change things. Congestion control will allow you to share the bandwidth with other applications. If you disable that, then we'll be using all of the bandwidth. We have the ability to do progressive transfers. So if you want to do a growing file or a file that is being changed, we can start uploading it right away. We can do a guaranteed delivery. So at the end of the transfer, we'll do an MD5 bit-by-bit comparison of the files and, you know, confirm that the file was transferred. We can do multiple. If we're sending a large directory, you can specify how many concurrent connections you want to have to the server. So let's say you can upload, you know, 3 clients at a time. This will just speed things up because everything is going to be going more concurrently and allow you to do even faster file transfers. We have the enable data minimization. So here's where we can actually do things like compression. We can do compression with zip or LMZA. We can compress into single archive if we're sending a lot of small files. We can create an incremental, so sending just file deltas, for example. So what that means is that I send version 1 of the file, version 2 changed a little bit, but I don't need to resend the whole file. I can just calculate the difference and send just the difference. So it reduces how much data is being sent. You have your file set, so your different filters here. Send, you know, only zip files, send only executables. Once the files are transferred, move these files to a certain directory. Actually, that's going to be on the task here, where you can move files to a certain directory and do email notifications. So this sort of gives you an idea what you can do with the hot folder. The end users will never really see this interface. This is really for the administrator. What the end user will interface with is really that one folder here, that one folder over here, where you can transfer your. The user will just be dropping files in a folder, and everything will start going. The user will not need to see anything else. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to execute this task. And you can see here the file transfer is now started. It's going. I can control the bandwidth of this transfer. Right now I'm going at 10 megabits. I can speed it up, slow it down, depending on the time. I can see the activity. I can see exactly what's being transferred when. And if I now look back on my server, here's my server now. My server application has woken up. What happened? I can see the session being transferred. I can click and see the full status of the session, what's being transferred, what file, how long will it take, what process it is in, and you can see everything going on the server as well. So you have full visibility of your transfer from as much as from the client side and also from the server side. There's another application we can connect to. It's called Central, where you can actually then see everything through a web interface, and you can see all your nodes, your hot folders, and your servers in one unified look with FileCatalyst Central. But that's a story for another webinar. So that's on the that's how the application looks like, just to give an idea. So once again, when you're looking for, you know, a file transfer acceleration, there are a few things you can you have to consider. Just a second, let me just shut this down here. There you go. Okay. So first of all, first and foremost, make sure you find an application that can play fair on your network. Meaning, when you're transferring files, yeah, you expect things to be slower, but not be completely dead. You still want to be able to use your network. Consider an application, because if we're doing a local area transfers, you probably have a backbone with either a gigabit or 10 gigabits. So you really need a protocol that has been optimized up to those speeds. We have been optimized up to 10 gigs, and we can easily saturate a 10 gig backbone if this is what's needed to do with from our clients, and we have done this in production. We have ability to create single archives of many small files. So if you're sending, let's say, files that are 3-4 megs each, and you have hundreds of thousands or maybe a million or more, we can send this with our protocol. Our protocol is very efficient on this. Security perhaps is not as important on a LAN, but it's still important to be able to, separate your users so the users on your LAN don't see each other's data. And it's something that we have as well. And then we have full automation tools, like I showed you with the hot folder or our SDK, where everything could be fully automated for your transfers. So we've been transferring files as a company since 2002. We've done acceleration. We've built our acceleration in 2006. We have many customers that are using our solutions. Here's just some of them, and we've done many. We have many more customers as well to show us. Well, we have case studies on our website if you're interested. But this is sort of just gives you an idea what we do. Just to finish up, before I don't know if I have any questions, but if I do, I'll get to them in a second. I just want to go through some of our events where we're going to be. So we're going to be in Koba on May 20th. With our partner Digibase. Thanks for Digibase for doing a joint, doing a trade show with us. We're going to be also in Ottawa for CanSec with Novanet. We'll be in Broadcast Asia with Magna, and actually for Broadcast Asia, I'll be there myself as well. So if you have any questions specific to at that point, will be very happy to answer them. We'll be in Magna's booth, and then we're doing our big IBC show in Amsterdam, where we'll have a big booth with our own corporate booth in September. And don't forget our webinars. So before I get into questions, remember we do a webinar each month, usually around the 20th of the month. If you can't participate, register for our hashtag FileCatalystWebinar, and you can follow it on Twitter. And next month we'll be talking about the cloud and how FileCatalyst can help you move files to the cloud. So I'm not sure you have any questions. It looks like, I have one question. Can I resume transfers? Can I resume transfers when automatically resume transfers if a connection breaks? Yes, we can definitely do that. It's built into all our products actually build at an API level and up. So every transfer we attempt, we'll first see if there's a similar file already sitting on the disk on the destination. And if you want to if you want to transfer, if you want to resume files, all you just have to do is just restart the existing file transfer. We will do an MD5 checksum of the data that has arrived so far versus the data that is still to be sent, and we will only resume if the data is identical. We're not going to do a blind resume. Blind resume would be something like an FTP application. It will do a blind resume. So we'll just look at the last byte, and we'll resume from the last byte without really checking what's there. So the resuming usually causes a lot of headaches for large file transfers, because the resuming on FTP will break things. With FileCatalyst, it will never break. Speed calculator on our website. Yes, we do. If I go to our main website here, FileCatalyst.com, you can basically click on products, and here on the bottom right you'll see tools. Throughput calculator, FileCatalyst versus FTP. So it will be the FileCatalyst versus FTP. what is needed for material from the server to a client? Well, there's a few options here for you. It depends what you want to do. If you want to do automation, that means you just want to kind of drop a file in a client's folder on your server, and then the client will start automatically downloading. The best option is probably the hot folder. So you could provide our licensing structure is such that we don't charge for distribution of hot folder. So you could provide the professional file transfer tool to your clients, and your clients will install that on their machine wherever they want to deliver files to, and then you just set up a download task. And the download task could be checking, let's say, every hour or every minute or whatever you want based on the schedule. And whenever new data appears in their home folder, the data is automatically going to be sent to download it. So when your client arrives in the morning, for example, the data is already going to be sitting in their folder locally. Second option could be a web-based option. So web-based option would be, you send out a file via email. So it's just, the file is not really sent via email. All what it's sent is just a link to download, and your client would have to click on the link and download the files via the web. Of course, this is manual. That means that when you post the file, your client has to do something, and it's to click on the link and download it. Hot folders, of course, much more reliable because everything will be programmed for your client. Your client will just interface with the files in the folder. And another question, is there a limit on the number of clients I can support? Can a client upload through a browser applet? Yes, that's as I just mentioned, this was actually, I just talked about the use case for downloading via the web. Same thing could happen for your clients uploading via the web. So imagine a client comes into your website, there is a link somewhere on your website, click here to send us files, and the client goes to that link, or your end user goes to that link. This pops up, let's say, a Java applet in their web browser, and they can start uploading files directly to your FileCatalyst server. Of course, applets have quite a few other options, like you can track what was uploaded and downloaded, redirect. There's a lot of options in the applets. There's, I think, over 100 different parameters you can set in our applets to customize the look and feel and the functionality of these applets. So that's about it. I don't have any other questions. Once again, thank you very much for attending this month. If you're interested in cloud transfers, please register for next month. Or just sign up for our Twitter account and listen to live tweets. And thank you very much, and have a nice day.